Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming back. It's good to see you. Welcome to episode 3 of the Rewired Gamer. I always tell everyone to leave us comments, hit me up on Twitter, hit Ronnie up on Twitter, come in my Twitch hangout. And someone did just that and asked for today's episode. If you've been following this series, we're spending the first series of episodes laying a foundation before we get into really specific, kind of nitty gritty types of topics. Today's topic was requested by a viewer of the show, and it is self-worth. If you struggle with self-worth or know anyone who does, stick around.
I hope our fans are ready for a wild ride. Juggernaut or not, we're here to kick some ass.
If you say you just can't take any more, all you're really saying is I just don't want to go any higher.
Failure is not the opposite of success. It's only part of it.
And you kept fighting, and you kept fighting, and you kept fighting. That's all I ask from you guys ever.
Welcome back. Thanks a lot for checking us out here on YouTube. Again, I am honored to be sitting beside digitally Ronnie Doss, and his Twitter is there. Make sure you give that a follow. Today's episode, for episode 3, is about self-worth. We've been going into foundational concepts. Before you start getting into a lot of nitty-gritty things with your life, you want to make sure the foundation of the house of your life is built on the rock, that is built solid. And someone requested this topic on self-worth. They came to me and said they have very low self-worth. It is obviously a really big topic. We could go on for hours and hours and hours on these things. We've put together a little outline that we hope will help some people, that will address some of these issues and maybe give you a little insight and hopefully a couple tools to help you if you struggle from time to time with your self-worth. How are you doing today, Ronnie? It's good to see you.
Good to see you, bud. I'm excited about this one. This is a great topic for discussion and empowering people because it's a very real thing for so many people, for all of us at some point, and maybe even still currently. But I think people are going to get a lot out of it today, for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. And you know, it's hard to rewire yourself to move forward in your life, to find the things that you're looking for in your life, the joy, the beauty, the success, the relationships, whatever it is, if you do have low self-worth. So when our viewer came to me and said, hey, can you do an episode on this? I was like, you know what? That's a great topic for where we are in the life and the journey of this show. And I'm excited about it and ready to dive right in. How about you?
Yeah, let's do it, bud.
All right, we got our outline up, and we are ready to rock and roll with episode 3, Ronnie. We got self-worth. All right, our first pillar for today. Chasing something versus expressing something. It will never be enough. Success versus significance. Talk to me, my friend.
Well, the mindset of feeling like there's always something to chase, that once you achieve that or reach that will be it. And so the it component leaves us in a place of wanting something all the time where we never experience, I think, wholeness, or at least in any sense, any completeness. And I think there's something really beautiful, Jay, about chasing after a better version of yourself, working on you so that you evolve and that you grow. And so your experience here on this planet is enhanced and you have a better view. But if there's always this thing that you have, it becomes very elusive. It's like, when X number of people like me on social media, then I'm going to be enough, and my life will have mattered at that number. But I mean, in talking to people that have gained some sense of like notoriety like that, they'll tell you that there's no point that you get to that you're like, okay, this is enough.
Yeah, it's like that Jim Carrey quote that you brought up in a previous episode where he said, I wish everyone could be famous and rich and realize that it's not all that, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's not where it's at. I mean, think about that. So celebrity status, those kind of things. Think about all the celebrities that we see, even in today's times, that have all this fame and fortune and money and this stuff like coming at them. And yet they're not really healthy in the relationships that they have with people closest to them. Relationships are falling apart. So think of it. So if you have two celebrities who are like living a celebrity life, like shouldn't that relationship be twice as prone to success as anybody else? And they're like, and what happens is it's twice as likely that it will end in divorce or a breakup when there's two celebrity people. And so fame is not the thing. You wind up chasing likes. You become addicted to this thing that in our young people especially have grown up being exposed to everybody else's high points, everybody else's
Right.
global.
Facebook being a highlight reel of people's lives, and you sit there all day scrolling through Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, and everyone's on boats and suntan and traveling around the world, and their families are all smiling and hugging and like, look at me and what my experience is versus this highlight reel of other people's lives. Like, I'm bad, whatever, right?
Yeah, you know, and people post what they want to post. So it's all
Exactly.
like intentional. Like marketing's one thing, branding is something else. People brand themselves as having their life together, and then it's all good. And but I can tell you, I've done enough trainings with enough people, coached enough people who on the surface it looks fantastic.
Right.
It's amazing. Look at we're buying the cars, and we got the house, and we're traveling. It's all good. But like there's a lot of in betweens. And I
Yeah.
think your self-worth is this thing of the in between, that you build up your own self-worth, understanding your own value in between the high points, that, or at least what we would call the high points
Right.
of life, what everybody wants to put on social media. And you know, you're watching people that on television, it's like, you know, look at these people, they're so glamorous, they have it all together, and look at this product. Once you have that, you're going to be enough and your life
Yeah.
is going to be amazing. And then
Right.
you consume that product or that thing, and then you sit there like, oh, this is it.
Yeah. If
Like,
you
this is
only
all.
had it, I'd be
Yep.
fine.
Yeah,
Right.
if I had that, if I could acquire and consume that, then my life would
Yeah.
be amazing. And you know what, man? It's just like, think about it. It's like a drug, dude. Like you take a drug, you need more of the drug to get you high. And the next thing you know, you have this addictive thing. Fame, pursuit of the it thing can be that.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we'll talk about more of this idea of expressing something in our life, letting something be expressed through us versus chasing the thing or having to run after the thing. Because
Yeah, and then I think it's important also getting back to how many people you've met with that look so glamorous from the outside, but they're dealing with stuff. And I think you would agree this is true. One of the first steps of evaluating your self worth is understanding and being a little forgiving with yourself that we're all a little messed up. Like it's a human experience, right? No matter how put together someone looks, even if they are fairly well put together at this point in their life, they've gone through some stuff. And everyone has struggled in their past or they're struggling now with a whole myriad of issues. And when you look at this highlight reel like social media and everyone looks so well put together and they got it all figured out, it makes you feel like a loser, like you're less. Like, how come all these people have it together and I don't?
Yeah. So you know, anytime you wind up comparing yourself to someone or something outside of you, you're going to wind up either thinking that you really are so much better than someone else, and that's really hard to maintain, because then when you screw up, you're like, oh my God, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was.
Yeah.
Or when you compare to somebody else, you automatically feel like you're not doing it as well as they're doing it, and you feel bad about yourself. And so either way, anytime your experience is based on anything outside of you, that's where you're going to wind up in a place where you it's not your fulfillment and your experience, it's just not consistent.
Yeah.
And we all do have the positives, we all have the negatives that we go through. All of us are broken in a lot of different things. We're born into a world where there's so many negative circumstances, where there's so much pain and so much hurt and so much greed and so much just mindsets of entitlement. So many people,
Selfishness and yeah.
selfishness, right? And so we're born into that. And that's what we see. And when we observe that, the way our brains are designed, because for us to survive, is we label and critique things. And how we label and critique things, Jason, are all based on what it means to us. And so everything that you look at through a viewpoint of, well, what does this mean to me? What does that other car over there mean to me? What does the house mean to me? How will this look on me? Because I had somebody talking about this as it pertained to people anyway, since you mentioned other people posting stuff, but you typically see people through a lens, three different lenses. The one lens you see them through is that this person can help you to get to where you want to go.
Right.
That's how you label people. That person can help me. The other way you label the person is that this person is going to hurt me or hinder me from getting where I want to go. Or then the third label is that this person is irrelevant. And so they're either going to help me or they're going to hurt me or they're irrelevant. And so I basically am labeling people all the time going, all right, is this going to help me get where I got to go and whatever. And we look at our whole life through that, whether it's possessions or people, that it's all about getting to somewhere else. And it's really not. It's really about being with what we have and learning to be okay in the moment with where we're at and build from that versus chasing after something always that it winds up fleeting. It's like dangling the carrot in front of you that you'll never get. Yeah. And and so chasing a better version of you is okay. That's about growth. But when you're chasing these things that you think are then going to make you feel a self-worth, I think that's an unbelievably inaccurate approach to our life here on this planet, being one of almost 8 billion people on the planet. Like, this is about what we're creating. So when somebody says, well, Ronnie, what's the purpose of life? It's like, hey, you get to decide what the purpose of your life is. Don't ask me, because I can't tell you. Stop looking outside of you to find somebody else that's going to give you your purpose in life. You figure out who it is that you are, decide that, and allow that to be expressed through you. But stop chasing all this stuff, because it goes away. The new car rusts, the house, over time gets old, the new clothes wear out, all that stuff. So, we find it within ourselves. That's how we express it.
So talk to me about expressing something. Like, I get it will never be enough. Totally get it. Chasing something, it will never be enough. But what is expressing something? And what is this dichotomy, success versus significance?
Yeah, well, Steve Jobs quote said, if you align yourself with a bigger vision of what can be, really nobody has to push you. It pulls you, it draws you into it. And so when you align with a bigger picture of who you could become, that's where you allow those things to be expressed through you. You trust that you are enough and that this can happen if you'll make the small refinements to self, not waiting on someone else to offer you all of these things. Jim Rohn had this wonderful quote. He's passed on now, but he used to say, if you're waiting on somebody else to come along and motivate you, what happens if that person doesn't show up? And so it's like you know what I mean? It's like you're waiting on something on the outside of you. And so when you align with something and believing that you really are and were put here for a purpose, you start looking for things that you can do that allow that purpose to be expressed through you. You're not just sitting around doing nothing going, well, I just wonder why I don't feel like I have purpose. Like, you have to do some work and stretch yourself and do some difficult things to find out really what sets you on fire and stirs you up. And if a person hasn't felt that yet, it's because I would suggest that they haven't put themselves out there enough and done enough to start to see what really does turn them on. And I think what you feel that really turns you on is an expression of this higher self, of a beingness part of you that sometimes you can't see in your natural eyes, but you feel it and you're willing to let that pull you forward. To me, that's the expression of something better. And success versus significance and satisfaction. If you could use the word satisfaction there. Success, a lot of times people think, well, success is me climbing the ladder of success. It's me getting more and more of the titles and the positions. But, when you keep climbing to get this next name badge title thing to put on your chest and say, well, this is who I am and where I'm at, that when you realize you have those things, but yet you haven't worked on your own beingness of what your thinking is of you, those things don't really matter. They come and go. Like, you can find people that are in really high positions that can't stand themselves. They really don't like themselves. And they talk so negatively to themselves because they thought that, well, if I ever got this thing, that would completely, and it would immediately turn me into a kinder, more compassionate person to myself. And the way you become more kind and more compassionate to yourself is working yourself through the process.
So even if you find quote unquote success, you could still have very low self-worth.
Absolutely. I mean, I could give you want me to go into name? Let me give you one. I don't know if the guys that on here would know, but there was a guy, his name was Rodney Dangerfield, incredible comedian, right? Back in the day. And he some of the dysfunction that he grew up around caused him to be very, very unhappy. And it was like he was fighting these internal demons his whole life. And he said that when he heard the applause of a comedy club and people clapped for him, that was the only time he felt okay. And it's a neat story because then he becomes this, wonderful, iconic comedian. But like, what would be the purpose of getting a TV show or having somebody throw all this cash at you or all these endorsement deals if you still don't confront some of that demon that's inside of you that keeps telling you, well, you're never enough. You're not going to be enough, because then you go through your whole life chasing this thing. And then you maybe get it at the end of your life. And then you find out that, wow, this didn't fulfill me. So ultimately, I've wasted a whole lot of my life trying to get something that's really not giving me satisfaction. And so here's what I grabbed this, because I walked back in the house. My daughter had this box out, but it's like, that's a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we think success is. It winds up being this Band-Aid, so to speak, of, oh, look what I've got. And it winds up going on the surface. But self-worth is about the thing underneath. And sometimes to heal the thing underneath, you got to dig out some of the old BS stuff you got going and confront some of that negativity that we're so good at. And then decide, no, hell no, I'm ripping the Band-Aid off today. We're going to get what's going on underneath. And sometimes it's difficult, but when you're willing to do that and confront it, Jason, what happens is you start to go, you know what, I can do this. I can do this. And you work yourself out of some dark place where the wounds are so deep. And then you start to allow yourself to heal. It takes work, but if you do the work, you see that you're worth the work. And when you do the work, good stuff comes.
And that's a great segue into our
I know
second
it's a good
pillar.
segue. It's the best segue. Absolutely. You know that.
There's always a lag or delay in taking initiative, okay? Bullet points. Patience with yourself, not expecting immediate payoff. Love the process versus requiring the prize. Give yourself grace for growth. So we're working on our self-worth, ripping off the Band-Aid. We understand that or quote, success isn't necessarily going to solve whatever issues we might have with our self-worth. So what does this mean? There's always a lag or delay in taking initiative, Ronnie.
Yeah. So if you wait for the trophy to then practice hard and get out there and do the sweat that is required to become great, right? That's the lag. It's like we don't take initiative because we're like, well, when they clap for me, then I'll work hard. And it's like, well, they're not going to clap for you until you work hard. There's so many people out there right now, Jason, that are doing average, mediocre work. Like, average is so easy. And I think that, it's not that John Wooden, I like John Wooden. I quote John Wooden all the time, but John Wooden coached UCLA men's basketball. Anyway, he used to say that all the trophies matter. He's like, all of them, not just the big ones. It's the smaller trophies matter, in that sometimes you're just doing a work that might feel like you're only going to get a small reward from it. But doing that work on that level prepares you to receive the trophy for the next level. But as it pertained to trophies and accomplishments, he had this quote that I think about always. Like, I read it years ago. He said that victory and defeat are both distractions. And what he meant was that if you get all caught up in, whoa, one day it's going to be so wonderful, we'll win and we'll be successful. He said, that's a distraction. What's a distraction of? Well, your mind's out there. It's not on what you can do right here. Defeat, I'm thinking about what my coach said to me back then, or let's make it practical. An old boyfriend, girlfriend. I'm thinking about what my parents said to me, or a teacher said to me, or when I was bullied back in the day. And that's a defeat. I think about that. Guess what? John Wooden would say that's a distraction too. Anything outside of doing the work on what you need to do is going to be a distraction, which leads to a delay. And so there's going to be a delay in success, in the sense there will be a lag of things, especially if you're waiting on anybody else's endorsement or approval or the trophy or the prize to do the work. And when you decide that you're going to do the work, you know why? Because it's an expression of who the hell you choose to be. Like, this is who I choose to be, so I'm going to do the work. Nobody can take that away from you. They can't. But if you are waiting to do it because you want someone else to say, you're good enough, or you have what it takes. What do you do if they don't say that? Maybe those people don't even know you need to hear it, or maybe they don't even have the capacity to encourage you. Like, that can't be what keeps you from getting up and allowing something amazing to come from you.
Right.
And that's the lag and the delay sometimes that we can get caught up in. It's like, I'll be a better husband when my wife starts to encourage me more. And I say, be a better husband. And I promise you, your wife will start encouraging you more. And even if she doesn't, you've decided to be a better husband because that's who you choose to be, not because somebody else is making you.
Yeah.
So that's that idea of this delay. There's always some space in what we see and how we interpret it. There's always that space in between. And what we choose to infuse into that space in between determines what action we're going to take, and really what success will wind up creating. But we're not so focused on success. We're just focused on doing what we need to do. And that's the thing that Jason, has helped me to do what I do so much better, because I realized I'm not doing this for anybody else, because there's this thing called the spotlight syndrome. And that's where you think everybody's worried about what you're doing,
Right.
and they're watching you, and they're like, ooh, I wonder what, like in my case, wonder what Ronnie's doing today. I wonder if he's succeeding or not. People ain't thinking about you.
they're
Nobody's
worried about themselves.
They're worried about themselves and getting their own,
Get through their own day. That's right.
So we don't need to be thinking the spotlight, because that can shut us down, thinking there's this pressure of, I got to do this right. You don't have to do it right. Just do the best you can do with what you have, and the right things eventually come to pass. Eventually. And if you're just starting out, you hadn't put in enough work for all the right things to happen yet. So just decide to do the work.
Yeah.
That's the lag and the delay part of that, Jason. But it's so important.
And in here we have give yourself grace for growth. Love the process versus requiring the prize. There's a famous, the 76ers trust the process.
Yep.
I think a lot of people, they have aspirations, which are good, but if they don't get there, like yesterday, now I have low self-worth because I'm a failure. I'm 22 and I'm not CEO of Microsoft, and this was where I should be. And I see these people on social media, and grandma told me I should be the head physician at the hospital. And I'm just a loser and all this stuff. You have to give yourself some grace. It takes time. You can't be so judgmental and hard on yourself that you haven't achieved all your dreams, and you're 25 or 30 or whatever. It's like, you have to enjoy the journey. You have to give yourself some grace. You have to love the process of becoming who you dream to be, who you've created in your mind and know that you could be, and not beat yourself down and have low self-worth if you're not there yesterday.
Yeah. And I heard wonderful quote from Phil Jackson, coach of the Chicago Bulls, then the LA Lakers. And he said, we grow when we're willing to turn the mundane into what's sacred. And what he meant was, when you're just willing to do small things really well and see those things even as sacred, is that they're important. Yeah. Not that the only thing that's going to be important or that's worthy of your best is some big end goal. Like when you learn to turn the mundane into sacred, it's like the little things that I will do in my marriage that are small things that I'm willing to do, that they may seem mundane, but those things are so important in the life experience. And when you're okay with saying, hey, this is an experience, in every moment, I can create my own experience by holding myself to a little higher standard, give myself some grace of growing into that. I say all the time, practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes better. Just be okay with getting a little better.
One thing at a time.
One thing at a time.
Climbing a mountain, it's a long staircase. You can't expect to be at the top. You got steps to take. And I think this generation, really even our generation, like, we're just so instant satisfaction and gratification. And it's just like, people don't like to hear this, but I said this on a previous show. You got to look at the farmer, and you plant a seed, and you water it, and you tend it, and you get rid of the weeds, and you wait. It takes time. Every day you're out there, you're in the field, you're watching what's going on, and you're climbing steps. You're going up Mount Everest, and it takes time. And people don't want to hear that, but that's the truth.
Yeah, and Phil Jackson, he said that about turning the mundane into sacred. He also said that a secret to success is compassion. And what I know he meant was being willing to be compassionate towards yourself in this journey. So I coach lots of different people. I do. It consumes a lot of my time.
Right.
And, like when I first started doing trainings, then I started getting invited to these big platforms. I've spoken in front of thousands of people at a time. And it's wonderful. But here's Jay, what happens is you gotta step down off the platform. Like
Right.
then you go back to being normal. It's like, yeah, I go kill it in front of all these thousands of people. And they're like, you're so amazing. And then I come home and I have to pick up Cheerios out of
Yeah.
my
Right.
kid's car seat. Like that's,
Yeah.
it's like all those things, but it's being compassionate with yourself and knowing that, you know what, this is the first time I've ever done this. So the reason I was telling you about, coaching a lot of people is one time I had a guy that just started coaching and he texts me and he's just like letting not me have it. He's just dropping like how frustrated, dropping F bombs and I can't believe or whatever I'm doing this and sabotaging this. And I just text back to him and I said, "Can I ask you one question?" And I said, "Have you ever done this before?" And his response was no. And I said, "Well, then cut yourself some slack. You've never done it before. So relax. Like, give
100%.
yourself some compassion, dude. Like, you wouldn't, we always talk about kids, you're a baby learning to walk. It's like the first time they take their first step, they don't run, they take a first step and then they fall. It'd be like looking at them and going, you fail the first time. I can't believe that. So every time they try to get up and walk again, you kick them over. It's
Yeah.
like, I'll kick you. It's like you
And,
don't do that to them.
and people fail. People make mistakes. And from our last episode, it's next time, right?
That's right.
Next time I will. Next time
That's
I
right.
will. Right? See, we're feeding the episodes in between each other. So you got to
if you-
watch them from the beginning.
That's
You know what I'm
right.
talking
Come on,
about?
You hadn't watched it yet, go back and
There you go.
watch
If
it.
you don't know what I'm talking about, you got to go back and watch the other one. Pause.
Yeah, that's right. So
That's
yeah, but
right.
that's it, man. I think you treat yourself with some compassion, man. Like, and here's the deal. I'm gonna say this in this. I might kind of be going off script a bit, but I know I can.
You
Don't
go,
get
man. You go.
I'm
We
going
got the
for it.
Ronnie
But
can
like,
on. Go.
who cares what these people that are caught up in this like immediate gratification, monetized, capitalistic, consumer society mindset? Like, who cares what they think? Like, if they're judging you, like if they're the kind of people that are really judging you and talking crap about you because you screwed up, then who cares what they think? Like, who cares? Like, you doing this for people that are toxic, negative, judgmental people? Like, you're doing this for them anyway? Because that's not who I'm doing what I do for. I'm doing what I do for one, for me to feel that I have some satisfaction of standing for what I want to do with my life. I'm surely not doing this for the haters. Now, some people say, well, you use the haters as the fuel for the whatever. Well, I don't think about my haters. Like, that's one of the best things I've done for myself is I don't think about people that have ever hated on me. And trust me, dude, I can tell you stories of people that have said so many things about me because I didn't do it the way that they wanted me to do it. I put it on social media yesterday. I said, don't conform. Don't become something just because somebody else wants you to become it. Just be you. You have this unique ability to be you. Nobody else can be you. Like, nobody else can be you. I'm sitting here and have done the things that I've gotten to do, and it's been wonderful. But dude, I started out with nothing, man. I started out with nothing. I started out working and pushing when nobody else was saying, "Oh, you're amazing." People would invite me to do things and then not have me come. They were, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to have you come do this. Would you work with our team?" And then they don't. And it's like, I was excited about that. And then it didn't happen. I had to learn to stop trying to perform for them and do it for me. Because if they were going to act that way or treat me that way or say ugly things about me, that's not the kind of person that I want to focus on anyway. I want to focus on somebody that's going to be receptive and kind and open. And if I want to be able to speak to those kind of people, that's who I got to choose to be.
You know what? That's another great segue.
I know, man.
Learning to honor yourself. We got a lot in here, but I think we can get through it fairly timely. Um, you know, whenever we go into these kind of things, I always want to kind of preface it with this is a very big topic. And I'm personally of the belief if you spend all your time focusing only on yourself, you're probably going to be miserable. And if all you think about is yourself and everything you do is for yourself, and you're becoming a selfish, self centered person at the center of everything, I don't think that's the way to go. But everything is in balance, right? And we're talking about self worth, particularly people that might struggle with low self worth. Those people, I really think they need to learn to honor themselves. You got to take care of yourself before you could take care of others. You said that previously on the show. If you love your parents, your brother, your sister, your friends, your husband, your wife, whatever, and it's a huge goal in your life, which is a good goal, to take care of them, first you got to take care of yourself. Because if you're not looking after you and rewiring your mind and honoring yourself a little bit, you're not going to be worth squat to them. Right. So I want to preface this with, hey, don't go down the road of just being so self-focused, so selfish, me, because that's a dangerous way to go. We're trying to talk about balance in life right now. And with that preface, I want to head into learning to honor yourself, Ronnie. Rest and proper rejuvenation and self-care, healthy hobby, things like that. Let's start off with those two.
Well, it is a quote, and I heard it many years ago, was that if you're going to deal with other people, general public, like if you're going to deal with, if you're going to be any kind of a public figure, and many of us are now, like especially
Yeah.
with social media, it's like people know you, whether if you put anything out there, like it's on the internet and people kind of know you, whatever. But it's like if you're going to be a public figure, deal with the public, deal with people, you have to have something that you would say is a healthy hobby or something that rejuvenates your spirit, causes you to feel full. If you're focused only on you, like in a selfish kind of a way, then that is built very much around performance because you're thinking about you and how you look to everybody else. Like, like that's really what it comes down to. It's like you see yourself through the lens of how you think everybody else sees you, and you can be very selfish of like, well, I got to prove and perform. But when you decide that you're going to do something for you to fill your spirit up, not fuel your ego, but fill your spirit, like fill you as a human being without a title, without a position, without all sorts of accolades and stuff. When you just do things and have some healthy hobby, whether that's just reading, meditating, spending time with your friends, watching movies, whatever, that fuels your spirit, you're healthier. Like you're so much healthier. And
Yeah.
when you do that, you have something better to pour out to other people.
Right.
And people want to be around people that cause them to want to feel better. And when a person is only thinking about themselves, if you ever get around somebody, I know you've seen this before, Jason, but when you get around somebody, all they think about is themselves and how they perform, and everything's a competition. They got to outdo you. People don't want to be around that for very long.
Right.
I don't want to be around that. I want to be around people that have something good to pour out. And those kind of things come from self-love and self-care, and what you said is like a healthy hobby, and like even rest. Like I've had
And mind food.
mind food. Yeah, absolutely. Like what you put in. Like if you have this wonderful exotic sports car, you don't put water in the gas tank, right? You don't put sugar in the gas tank. You don't you take care of it. And people, and I just read this the other day. It's amazing how people take better care of their pets than they do themselves. Like it's like, they got a diet for their pets. Like they take care of their pets like really well.
Yeah.
But they're eating garbage and not, that self-care and self-love is that you start to really embrace this wonderful creation that you are. You couldn't be by accident. There's no way that through randomness that you could be this amazing of a creation. The most powerful computer on the planet is the human brain. Like nothing else is even close to it. And you are that. You have that. I have that. And I think people just don't realize just how valuable they are. And they don't take care of them,
Right.
and they don't love themselves. And as a result, they feel empty all the time. And it's easy to be in that thing when you're in performance mode. Like you got to perform to be okay. I've been there before. Believe me, I've been there, exhausted, and I have nothing to pour out. And you got to stay full in some senses by doing things that cause you to feel good for you, not trying to just be the center of attention for everybody else and what they think. You got to at some point just learn to love you.
And you want to consume healthy materials for your mind, and you want to have a balanced life intentionally. We have here, it's created. A balanced life is created. You don't just randomly find a balanced life. You got to do it on purpose. Right. And part of that is surrounding yourself with a healthy circle of people. If you have low self-worth, one thing I suggest you take a look at is who are you surrounding yourself with, and what are they pouring into your life?
You become like the people that you give proximity to. So as you know, I tell teams a lot. You look at it even as a home and family, is like environment. I heard environment becomes seductive. So if you got a lot of people pouring a lot of negativity into a certain atmosphere, you're hanging around with people that are toxic, negative, always gossiping, always telling, that energy fills the atmosphere and you're around it. You become like that. It seduces you into that. And so at some point you got to go, okay, if I do have self-worth, and Ronnie and Jason did this thing, said I did, so I'm just going to trust that I do. And I'm going to believe that I'm do this, then I'm going to start being really selective about who I let into my space. And not out of narcissism and egotism and I'm better, but that I'm worth it. And I just can't do this. Think of it like a surgeon who knows that they're when they're on call, that they got to be there, because if they work in the ER, or they in the hospital, at any moment anything could happen, and they got a life to save. They're not out partying, doing stupid, crazy stuff when they know they're on call, because other people's life depends on it.
Right.
And when you realize that you're important, you don't let other people's negativity and drama infect you in a way that you can't do what you're supposed to do and do well, and express this gift that's been given to you to help people. You don't have to impress people if you're really wanting to serve people. I always say that service is about our spirit, right? Like being served is about our ego. And when you start really taking care of you and saying, hey, if I take care of myself, I can't allow this kind of stuff around me. Like when people go through rehab programs, man, they tell them the first thing you come out, don't be hanging with people that are in recovery either. Not right now. You don't need to be in a relationship right now. You need to start taking care of you, making sure you're okay. Who you surround yourself is very important.
And that's the next one on our list: permission to say no and set boundaries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the phrase I share all the time, Jay, is success begins with a yes, but it's maintained with a no. And so what I say no to today determines what I'll get to say yes to later. And so when I'm saying yes to things that are going to fuel me, fuel my mind, fuel my spirit, let those things in, then, I let those things in. I'll say no to going and partying. I'll say no to staying up late all night. Like I'll say no to a lot of okay things so that I can continue to work on the things that are going to be better than okay things in the future. And that idea right there, if somebody listening to this can just get that, man, things change. You're not selfish when you set up boundaries. Like you're not selfish when you put up a gate to keep animals out of your garden. You're not being selfish, you're being wise. It's the same way. If you got to make sure that you don't let all the negative stuff in. And I'll tell you, Jason, I'll tell you no faster than anything. If it doesn't fit, if it's going to take my peace, I'm going to say no to it. If it's something that's going to rob me of my joy in my day, I'll say no to it. I'll say no now so much faster than I ever have before. And if I would have known that in the beginning, I think I would have had so much of a better experience in my life.
For sure.
Instead of just trying to be at someone's beck and call just because they invited me to do something or asked me to engage in something they had going on.
And I want to move next to a really important one. Self-talk, your internal dialogue. And we're going to start kind of upside down from what people would expect. Are there benefits of having negative self-worth?
You're asking me, I'm going to tell you. I'm let everybody.
I know the answer, but we're doing a show here, so it's a little ping pong volley action going on, Ronnie.
Right. Are
there benefits You know, you would think, hell no, there's no benefits to having a negative self-worth. Are there benefits to having a negative self-worth?
Absolutely. You know, there's benefits to all of it, bud. And, you know, even when you said you were kind of asking the question, I knew you were asking the question, but sometimes letting somebody ponder on a question for a second, because that is one that, as you said, it might be turning their thinking upside down. Like when somebody continues to have a negative self-worth or tell themselves that they're never going to be enough, that they don't have what it takes, it lets you off the hook. Like you don't have to be accountable to another level of thinking or growth when you just tell yourself you're not worth a crap, you know? And so this old Joseph Campbell quote, he said, the privilege of a lifetime is being who you are. And, you know, being who you are is this very complex creature, this creation that can do so many different things, right? Like learning to play an instrument, learning to play a sport, right? Learning to ride a bike. You can learn to write a book. You can learn to sing. You can train your brain to do all these different things. There's so many things that we can do. And, you know, we are an incredible creation. And if we sit around telling ourselves that we have no self-worth, like I'm not worth anything, that there's a benefit there.
Yeah, it's almost a cop-out. Like,
Yeah, it's a cop-out.
I'm not worth the crap. I'm not going to be better.
Yeah.
I'm not going to set goals and achieve goals. Check the last episode. Yeah, it's kind of a cop-out, right? So yeah, it's a benefit. Yeah, I could sit around and be lazy. I could be up all night, sleeping all day, eating like crap, not caring about my relationships, not caring about my grades, not caring about my friendships, not being intentional, not working on my attitude. I suck. It's like, no, you're copping out.
Yeah, that's right. You play small. So there's the benefits of playing small is it's safe. I hide out. I don't have to do anything difficult or challenging. Like and this is the thing, Jason. So it's like you tell yourself that life's so hard, it's so difficult, you're not worth a crap. And you run that narrative, that self-talk, as we're saying, in our mind.
Yep.
At the end of the day, you're exhausted. Like you're like, man, it's been a rough day. I've been kicking my own ass all day. Which is what we do. So I've been tearing myself down all day. And so you're exhausted at the end of the day. You've depleted your creative energy that could be used to create something more and grow into something more. You've depleted all that, tearing yourself down. Like getting into a fight is going to exhaust you. But you got to ask yourself, like, what are you really fighting? Are you just fighting a lesser version of yourself all the time because you give yourself permission to that lesser version and allow it to stick around? Or are you using your energy to fight the fight of progress and growth? Like, which is it? Because there's benefits to like saying, I don't have any worth. Like there's benefits. Think about it. Like, let's say a corporate setting. So a person here who might be new on a job or working with a team, there's benefits to saying, hey, nobody's going to value my opinion here. So I'm going to sit here and not say anything ever. Well, then guess what that means? That means you don't have to work on your ideas. You don't have to repackage your thinking. You don't have to work on. It's a cop-out. It's a cop-out. So, you know, I don't know what it is. Like over time, maybe people tell you that you suck. Maybe people say you don't have what it takes. I mean, dude, story after story. I don't want to be that guy, but I know all the stories. But Walt Disney, like being told that, you know, his cartoons, they suck. Like, you know, he gets fired from doing whatever. Steve Jobs, Apple, got fired from his own company.
Lucille Ball was told she wasn't funny and went on to build one of the most famous comedy shows of all time. Like
Elvis
the list
Presley.
goes on and on and on.
It's on, dude, and on. And everybody has something that could hinder them from moving forward. I have things that there were times in my career, bud, I could have completely stopped, quit, and it would have been justified. Like I could have in my mind justified it.
Same with me in complexity, man. 100 times I could have just been like, hey, I got this over here. It's easier. You know, it's more stable. You know, people around me say I should abandon this and go this way. I totally agree with you.
Yeah, man. And when you just decide that, like, you know what, it really doesn't matter what that person's opinion of me is. What's going to matter is the opinion I have of myself. And so if it really starts with that, like you can take a failure and get up. It's the old Buddhist or Chinese proverb, like man fall down 7 times, get up 8. It's like you fall, but then you get up. As long as you're willing to get up one more time, then you keep at it. And over time, it makes you stronger and stronger. And then somebody can look at you and go, hey, I don't think you're good. This might not fit for you. and you're okay with that. Like there's a saying that talks about people, Jason. It says that anytime we put someone up on a pedestal, eventually that pedestal is going to fall, and we're going to wind up being crushed. And so if we put other people and their opinions of us so much higher
Right.
than us being willing to
That's
develop
fear of opinion of others. You're fearing the other opinions.
In a
So
sense,
if
yes.
everyone doesn't think you're the bomb, then all of a sudden you're absorbing that. You're fearing the negative opinions of others, and your own self-worth is being trashed because you fear that somebody might not like you. You fear you might not get this many likes on your post. You might not get this many followers. You might not get this job. You're so afraid. You mentioned this early in the show of the opinions of others. Oftentimes you're afraid of the opinions of other people who honestly might not even be that great of people that you want in your life to begin with. Mm-hmm. And so how does that relate to self-talk? Like how do you confront that?
Well, the self-talk. So one of the phrases that I heard years ago that I have really shared so many times, and people have told me how much they appreciate because it really resonated, was simply that the quality of your life is simply the quality of your internal dialogue. Like you could take someone who's really walking through what others would see as an unbelievably difficult time, but yet they're okay because they've learned to fashion their thinking in a way that serves them. Like
100%, 100%. A quick example. I have a friend, no names listed. Back in California, they used to live near us, and his wife was diagnosed. Well, not even diagnosed. She came up with a mystery disease that was basically causing her to lose all motor function. So long, painful, depressing story later. The years are dragging on, and then she can't move, and then she can't talk, and so she's alive. She's trapped in her body, but she's invalid, and they're trying to keep her alive through infections and everything else. And he's raising 2 young boys. He's got a full-time job. And I always reach out to him and be like, how are you doing? Or how are you doing? And you know what he always says to me? This guy's going through a living hell with the love of his life, trying to raise 2 kids, trying to pay her medical bills, trying to carry on with his career. I always say, how you doing, man? How you doing? And he said, I'm blessed. That's what he says. He goes, so many people have it worse than us. And I'm kind of thinking in my own mind, like, dude, dang, man, like you got it. And I don't say this, but I'm thinking like, you got it rough, brother. Like, he's like, oh, so many people have it worse than us. We have so many blessings. Like, we have a roof over our head. We have food on the table. My boys are healthy. I'm healthy. I have a job. Like, I'm blessed. He's going through what could really be defined as just like a living hell. And every time I ask this guy, how you doing? He says, I'm blessed. It's really that internal narrative of what you're saying to yourself.
Yep, that's it. And, so they're a wonderful book. If anybody on here is into reading at all, a phenomenal book, but puts things in perspective. It's called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Yeah.
And he went through the Holocaust, lost his family murdered in front of him.
Yeah, we mentioned torture.
That. Yeah, dude, you got somebody, listen, his take on it is profound, because we would look at like the Holocaust and all these things and go, oh my God, this is so terrible. And it is awful. But even going through something as bad as that, Jason, somebody says, this is Dr. Viktor Frankl. He said, the last thing that can be taken from a human being is their ability to choose their response to any situation. And so your friend is saying, I'm blessed. He's choosing his perspective. Now, that doesn't mean that it's all butterflies and rainbows and he's running around the house like this is amazing. Right. But by being willing to say, you know what, I am blessed, and looking at the things that are good. There's an old saying that says, no day is perfect, but there's something perfect in every day. And being willing to look for that in a moment, like in that, you focus on that, it really changes your experience.
And it's back to our first episode on attitude. What you focus on determines your emotions, and your emotional history eventually determines your attitude on everything. Yeah. It's what you're focusing on. Are you focused on just the depressing and the negative and the toxic that's around? Or are you intentionally focusing, not blindly like you're in some la-la land, but you're focused on the good and on the positive, on what's right in your life, and you're healthy and you have friends and you're focused on the good, and and talking to yourself that way. If you're talking to yourself and focusing in such a way, I think your self-worth can go nowhere but up.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's an old quote. Mario Fernandez said that when you rise above the storm, you'll inevitably find the sunshine. And I think sometimes we deal with the storms of life, like the inconsistencies and circumstances that we didn't expect. And think about it, man, when you expect something of your life and it has to be a certain way, like you think about it, like you created this expectation way earlier in your life, thinking that this is probably how life's going to be. And I'm sure it'll wind up like that. Like your friend, he didn't expect his wife to come up with a disease like that. He didn't expect her to get sick like that. Right. And you don't expect that. But when you're willing to say, hey, no matter what the circumstances are, one more day, one day at a time, I can check my thinking, I can check my attitude, check my mindset, knowing that I was created for a reason and I'm here. There's something that I can do, even if I hadn't found it yet. I don't have to do everything right now. I can do one thing right now. And the one thing I can do is to check my perspective. And if I can check my perspective and what we were just talking about, the benefits of not believing you have any self-worth, like, yeah, there's some payoffs in it, but dude, it could cost you your whole life. It can cost you all the joy that you could find, all the relationships that you could develop, all the ways of helping somebody else that may be walking through hell in their life. But if all you're thinking is, well, there's no purpose in this, this just sucks all the way, all the time, man, you're never going to feel some of the beauty that comes when you pull yourself up out of that negativity and decide that no matter what, no matter if failure comes my way, it may come to me, but it's not going to go all the way through me. And I'm not going to let it change who I am as a
Yeah.
person. That's where I think life becomes a lot richer versus feeling like we're always out of control and that something's always being done to us and it's so bad. I think this is
Yeah.
the only way, Jay. I think this is the only way that we can survive this existence, which at times can be incredibly difficult, man. You
Yeah, and
know that.
I think you're right on, and it's like we come with these expectations, and if we're not at those expectations, we turn on ourselves and say we're a loser, and we have low self worth. And I think we're on to our last two pillars, and I think this next one is important, and it involves expectations, and it involves senses of entitlement, and we all need to really understand humility, um, understand what it is, and then really work to implement humility in our lives. Get out of entitlement and into possibility. And some of the bullets are be willing to prove yourself wrong. Be willing to laugh at yourself sometimes, not in a angry, negative way. Just
Right.
laugh at yourself. Everyone on my stream and my YouTube knows how I laugh at myself, I think, more than anyone else laughs at me.
Yeah.
And be willing to enjoy where you are. You got to get out of this entitlement. Like, I'm owed this. I expect this. And because I don't have it, I have no worth. Like, I didn't get this, whatever it is from the beginning of the show. So I don't have value. And I don't have worth. And I don't feel self worth. Sometimes that can be for a lack of humility, ironically, and maybe an attitude of entitlement. Can you touch on that a bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think in versus the reaction, because there's always there's always this thing that between the stimulus or whatever the circumstance is and our reaction, there's always some space in between that. And when you operate with a sense of humility, like you can, if you can kind of take that space and decide to do something with it that's positive because you're like, you know what? I'm not owed anything. I'm not owed joy. I'm not owed pain. Like nobody's owes me anything. Like I'm here. I'm present in this moment. And if there's some circumstance or something that comes at me, instead of being so angry and talking to myself so bad and saying everybody else is so stupid and all that stuff, I go, hey, wait a minute. This thing's coming in my life. It's coming toward me. It's not about this thing. Remember, it's what I'm going to do with this thing. Then you start to fashion some of what you're building. And if you want to build something better, you got to do something better with the little intricacies. It's those small things. When Phil Jackson said, turn the mundane into sacred, it's those small things.
Yep.
And like when you think that if you think you're born entitled to being a champion and you don't do the work to be a champion, then you're going to sit around mad at yourself because you didn't become a champion with the work you were unwilling to do. So when you're humble, you're like, I'm willing to do this. I don't think I'm better than anybody else. I'll like
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
check this out. In my house, like, but I'll clean up my house. I'll clean up my office. I'll vacuum my floors.
100%.
Like I absolutely do that. Now that doesn't mean that there aren't times I can have somebody and hire someone to help to do things, and that's helping with the economy and creating kind of a job and all of those things. But I'm not above it. But if I sit around and go, man, the carpet in my office should have perfect lines in it all the time.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, like, dude, I'm ruining my experience because of some expectation that I say it has to be this way. That's entitlement. But when you're humble and you go, man, I don't know that I really deserve any of this. Like, I'm just open to do the work to be better. Then if something's something's not working, I'll work to create some solution versus just sitting around talking negatively about everything, about myself and anybody else that may be involved in it. When you get around people that are really humble and are just excited to be doing this thing called life at all, over time, those are the people that other people want to be around. And so I've always tried to just be humble, not believing that I'm either absolutely worth the greatest in the whole world, no matter what. I'm worth all that, or that I'm not tied to the thought that I'm not worth anything. It's almost like I just unattached from all the story of that I'm not something or that I am something, and was just willing to be with whatever is and ask myself, is this thing that I'm creating working? And if it doesn't seem to be working, do some refinements to it. That's an expression of humility to me,
Right.
versus just that it doesn't look how I thought it was going to look before now.
Yeah.
I think there's something really powerful in that for anybody, no matter what level they're at. Like in a marriage, you be grateful that you have a spouse, be grateful for what they do well, be grateful that you have children. Like, people complain about their kids, man. I have people that I've coached and know that they aren't able to have kids. Like the doctor said, look, it's not going to happen. And they're heartbroken, while other people are complaining. Their driveway's full of toys and garage full of toys, and they're complaining all the time. And other people over here praying for this thing. And like, man, I would love to have a family. I'd love to, and they're heartbroken. And it's like, just keep it in perspective. Like, we're not owed anything. And there are people dealing with really difficult things, more difficult than you know. So stop thinking you're so entitled to all this happiness all the time. Instead of doing that, create the happiness, work for it, versus thinking somebody's supposed to just hand it to you. That's a different approach to a life, Jason, that I think fuels a better experience for us. And when our experience is better, I think we have better to give to the people that we would say we care about. So that's the need for it. That's why I think it's so essential. It's so important. So,
totally agree. And on our last one here, Ronnie and I wanted to leave our viewers with a few takeaway action steps. We talk about a lot of concepts on different levels, right? We'll always do our best within whatever wisdom we possess from our experience to give you actual action steps. So if you haven't taken notes to this point, this might be where you want to grab a pencil quick. Number one, I've got, Ronnie, identify what you'd do if you didn't have low self-worth. I love that one.
Think about that, man.
If you weren't cursed, quote unquote, cursed with low self-worth, what would you do then?
Right. Write
it down.
Yep. What would you do if you get, a mentor of mine, he's passed on now, but he used to say, how would you feel? How would you be if you were on the other side of the problem? So if this problem wasn't here, how would you feel? How would you be? Right. How would you show up if this problem wasn't so prevalent? And because sometimes, Jason, I think we just keep bringing these old problems back into our day because it's so familiar. I mean, I've tried to wrap my head around this, but it's like, if you keep chewing on the same old problem, even though you kind of hate it,
Right.
it's like if you chew on that, it's like you don't have to chew on this problem of doing something new for the first time that you may fall
Yeah.
flat on your face. It's like it's like the devil so well. You're gonna fight with this old devil, and we prefer that versus fighting a new devil, I guess.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
we keep bringing this problems up, and so it's like, well, what if that problem wasn't there? Like if self-worth is my problem. Okay, if self-worth wasn't your problem, what would you do? Well, I might get up and I might exercise. I might
Right.
start eating better. If I self-worth, I might start talking to myself better. Cool. Whatever it is, write it down.
Right.
Identify. Like what, clarity, there's power in clarity, man. And just getting some clarity on, well, what could this look like? And you start developing a little bit of a roadmap to move towards. It doesn't mean you're not going to run off the road sometimes, but at least you kind of have a roadmap, and you start going, well, this is what this could look like. This is what this could look like. And now you have something you could be accountable to. Because I think when you fall in this thing of self-worth, we kind of want to isolate ourselves sometimes. Jason, is like we isolate and we hide out. And that is, man, that's an easy way to get picked off.
Yeah.
When you isolate yourself, and the only person you're ever around is you, and you're just tearing yourself down, and you're turning these little thoughts of a little bit of negativity into some manic like narrative that just destroys your sense of being at all.
Right.
And so what if you'd say, hey, self-worth's not my issue. I really believe in myself. And if you really believed in that for a moment, what might you attempt to do? And
Right.
there's the starting point for you.
And that's kind of the second one, second action item. Give yourself permission to dream. It's right related to what you just said. Like,
yeah,
if you didn't have self-worth, what would you do? Setting that aside, I think it's important to give yourself permission to dream, because if you have low self-worth, you don't believe in any of your dreams. You might be like, well, I dream I could be an airline pilot, whatever. But if you have low self-worth, you're constantly telling yourself, oh, I'd never be able to do that. Oh, that's dumb. Oh, that's stupid. I'd never be able to do that. No. Give yourself permission to dream.
Yeah, sit around. So I have in front of me, I don't know if I should tell you this, but I think I may have mentioned it, but I got a humidor.
That's what you're
in my office.
I have a humidor in the other room.
I got a humidor right full of cigars. And you know what I do, Jay? I go out and I sit by my pool.
I've seen your Instagram, I know.
Dude, listen to me. If you guys don't follow me on
Instagram.
The cigar, follow me on Instagram.
Check Ronnie on Instagram.
That's right. Go
Plug,
on.
ding.
Ding, ding, ding. But I sit out, and I have guys that I coach, very successful guys. They'll send me cigars and stuff. And some of them I turn on to smoking a cigar, and I'll say, hey, look, sit with yourself and allow yourself to relax a little bit, having a cigar, and allow yourself permission to dream and dream about what could be in your life. Like listen, because immediately some people go, oh, Ronnie, are you saying that a person has to have the biggest house and the nicest stuff?
Right.
Is that what you're telling them to dream about? It's like, no, I'm not telling you to dream about anything. Just here it is. It's allow yourself permission to dream. And not in the moment you see that you have this thing like, man, I could have this. What you'll notice is your brain, that old self-talk starts to go, no, you can't do that. So stop thinking about it.
Right.
And so one of my mentors, who I actually mentioned him earlier, but he would say, the more vivid you can make the dream, like the more detailed, the fabric, all of it.
What's it?
Right.
Yeah.
All that. He said, the more you're actually training your brain to allow that to be a reality on the outside. And so it's like, sit around, allow yourself to dream. And it's like, just give yourself permission. Like, who's stopping you? Because I saw that the other day that it was like unconfronted thought becomes limitations. And so what it means is, like, if you say, hey, I'm going to give myself permission to dream, but then there's that little negative talk that comes in, oh, well, you couldn't do that, whatever. If you don't confront that thought and go, shut up, like I'm going to dream right now. Just let me dream. Yep. Shut up. If you don't confront that little negative thought then becomes the limitation that you feel holds you back.
And that's the next bullet point. Talk to yourself versus listening to yourself. You have to be intentional. When these little, like, oh, you're worthless, or you'll never you'll never be good enough, or you're stupid, or when these things come floating through your head, you need to, first of all, filter them out. You got to talk to yourself. You have to intentionally talk to yourself. You're not going to put up with that bullshit, excuse my French. I'm not going to listen to this nonsense. I do have value. I do have worth. I do have dreams. I can achieve those dreams. Now, I'm not trying to go too Tony Robbins here, but you have to talk to yourself. Speak goodness. Speak confidence. Speak these things into your life rather than just listening to the negative little SOB on your shoulder telling you're not worth anything. You have to be intentional. You can't just float along.
Yeah. What if that negative voice had a purpose of compelling you into taking some positive action? So the negative voice compels you into taking a bit of positive action, right? But you don't have to allow the negative voice to be what dominates the day. Like there's a little bit of negative dialogue. Say, well, you couldn't do that. You could say, oh yeah, well, watch this.
Right.
And then you talk back. It's like, watch this. So there's this dialogue. I'm not doing, this is not the episode. We're too far. And maybe we do this on the next day. But like I had this whole conversation I spoke in Atlanta this past weekend, room packed full of some influencers, man, people making it happen. And I talked about my different personalities, and Ronnie, him and Rodney, we whatever. It's like, I just named these two different personalities. And when Rodney, who's negative, starts chiming in,
damn it, Rodney.
I'm like, Rodney, sit your ass down.
Sit in the corner and shut up, Rodney.
And shut your mouth, right? Like, what's wrong with doing that? Like some people go, oh, that sounds stupid. Well, you're talking to yourself anyway. So since you're talking to yourself anyway, why not learn to say the things that are going to help you? Like you're going to talk anyway, just because it's easier to talk and be negative. So it's going to go, well, yeah, just because I always talk negative doesn't mean that's just because it's the easiest mean that's going to be the best. So watch this. The moment I start being negative, I just laugh at myself. Like, you just shut your mouth. Watch this. And you're just like, man, that guy's crazy. Who cares? This is your own existence, your own experience. And so laugh at the negativity, speak to yourself instead of listening to that other self. Like look up there behind me. See that guy up there, my little NASA guy, the bobblehead.
Yes,
see him up there? Yeah, man. Like I always say, that guy's, I use him in the positive light, that he's always, speaking positively. But the truth is, you can have one of those sitting on one shoulder and another one sitting on the other, and they're just one's positive, one negative. The thing is, which one you're going to listen to? Like which one? Because you get to choose, you get to choose. So speaking to yourself in a way, it's like, just shut your mouth. We got, I've said it like this. Hey, Rodney, the other negative guy. It's like Rodney, because it sounds so close to Ronnie. Come on, it's Rodney.
It's like Ronnie's evil brother.
Yeah, it's his evil brother. And dude, I heard a comedian.
Oh, I'm going to bring up Rodney for if we do 50 of these episodes, you can bank that the next 47 you're going to hear about Rodney.
Dude,
is that Rodney?
Yeah, I have a friend. One of the guys that was in the training I did, was like, his name is a great friend of mine. His name is Sam. He texted me after listening to it, and he was like, dude, I'm going to change my name from Sam to Stan. That's my negative, whatever. And I was like, man, you're not going to change your name you don't need to change it to Stan. Just change one letter from Sam to sad, because you just sad all the time. What's your problem? I'm kidding with him. But it's so true. And so many people respond to this going, well, Ronnie, we see you as this mentor and this coach. You said, I'm not going to go Tony Robbins and that guy, but Tony Robbins has had to fight his own demons to get to a place where you have something to say. Don't hate on the fact that you have a negative voice. Use it to strengthen you. Use it as somebody who kind of provokes you to go, you know what? Watch this. Like, just watch. Like, you don't think I can get up early in the morning and exercise. You say I'm not a morning person. Well, watch this. I'll show you. And you're doing this for you. Like, you could do it with somebody else that maybe hated on you if you want, but like, you just decide to play this game with you, and you start talking to yourself in a way that stirs you up.
Rewiring your mind.
That's all you're doing, man. Because Jay, and I will say this in every episode probably, but you hear every word you say, whether it's external or internal. And they say I have heard that you have 80,000 thoughts a day. 90% of them are usually of the past or some negative scenario of why you can't. They just, done this. But like, instead of letting that statistic be who we are, it's like, all right, if I'm going to have 80,000 thoughts a day, I'm going to increase that percentage, from 90% of that to 60% of it. It's going to be negative. I'm 40% positive. I'm going to work at that and watch how your life starts to change. And that's the difference between listening to some lesser BS version of yourself.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, man.
So our
That's
last two action items are create order,
yep.
avoid clutter,
Yep.
and attack early. Seeing is believing. Create
Yep.
order. Your life is worth arranging.
Yep.
And it's fairly obvious. Touch on that for a second.
Yep. If there's work to be done, think about it. Like in a hospital where there's a surgery that's going to happen, they have things laid out. Like they know where the different instruments are to do the surgery. It's like, if you know that there's some work you need to do and there's something you want to get done, don't be like spending 30 minutes of your day wandering around the house trying to find the thing that you need to get the work done. So it's laying it out and planning it and organizing some things. So I work out at home a lot, like especially now our gyms are closed. But like when I used to really struggle with working out, Jason, like I would eliminate all the things that could be excuses. And so one of the things was like, a lot of times it's like, well, I can't find the right clothes to work out in. I can't, whatever. So what I said is, okay, the night before, I'm gonna get my workout clothes. I'm gonna lay them out right beside the bed. And when I get up, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm like a fireman. I'm gonna jump into my suit. I'm jumping into my workout clothes and I'm going down the hall and working out. That way I eliminated anything that could be like a distraction. If you don't organize your life and get some things in order, like you're always going to feel like you're buried under this clutter.
If you live in a pigsty and just everything's always a mess and it's just a disaster, how can you expect to have clear thoughts and like execution? And it's just like, you don't have to be a super, quote unquote neat freak, but you have to avoid that clutter. You have to have that organization. And where everything is in its place and you're organized and your mind's not constantly, where the hell is this and where the hell is that? It's like, no, your life is worth arranging.
Yeah. And Jason, so at the Star, right, where Complexity, the headquarters there, man, when we went around there, like anybody, you could probably pull up some pictures online of the headquarters, like that facility, your headquarters there at Complexity. Dude, Jerry Jones does it right. Like things aren't out of order. They're not just, everything's intentional.
Every square foot is intentional in the whole property.
The whole place, dude. I came home when we were there together last time and I was like, man, I got to do better.
It's amazing how much thought they put into it. Yeah.
Dude, it's incredible. But like when it's like, I was telling my daughter Addison about this. I said, Addie, as you get older, I was like, you're going to be given more and more responsibility. And I was like, so let's start with what you do have that you can be responsible for right now. And I told her, we just visited my mom in North Carolina this past week, Jason. And my mom, let me tell you about my mom. My mom, is in her mid 70s and you go to her house, bud, her house is in order, Jay. Like it's immaculate, dude. It's like sterile, dude. Like it's like you could find, my mom would know where everything's at, and it's, I'm not talking about
third drawer from the left.
Yeah, man, beside the thing, and it's in order and it's clean. And let me tell you, man, I'm not saying you have to be a neat freak, but as you work on getting order with the things that you do have, it's like you develop greater capacity or muscles to be able to handle other responsibilities and more and more. And as we grow, I think that life does hand us more responsibilities.
Absolutely.
And so it's like what you do well. So when you do well with what small things have been entrusted to you, trying to keep order, not perfect, you don't have to be perfect, but doing things well, like you expand out. And so straighten up your office, like straighten up your bedroom, make your bed. There's a great book. It was by a guy that's colonel in the Navy. He said, make your bed. It's like start the day, make your bed, do some things that can, the seeing is believing component, Jake.
Yeah, attack early is our last one. Attack early, seeing is believing.
That's right. The more you take something on, like right now, anybody listening to say, Ronnie, I want to build more self-worth. I'm listening to you and Jay. What do I do? It's like, all right, write out something that you could do in the morning. If you attacked your morning, write it out for you. You'd feel good when you got that done. And you get up tomorrow morning, you attack that thing, like attack it. And if your alter ego is like, no, don't do it. Wait around, do it tomorrow. It's like, no, shut up. Shut your mouth. Shut up. We're going to get this done. And you attack it. You see yourself attacking it. And then you start to believe that that's who you are. And that's really cool, and it's kind of this analogy we could be done. But we have friends who have lots of kids. And normally, unless somebody has quadruplets, which really does one, I don't know what the statistics are, but like the way you grow to be able to handle a second kid, or at least better, is you have the first one.
Right.
And then you learn with that first one. And it's like, all right, we can handle another one, and you expand your capacity. Very rarely does the universe throw everything on you all at once.
Right.
You kind of grow into things.
Right.
And that's what the thing is attack. You know, I get up early, man. Like I had a car pick me up this past Friday to take me to the airport, and I had to be in Atlanta to speak. And my wife, Jen, and my daughters had already flown to Atlanta a few days before. And I had a car pick me up. They were in the driveway at 4. Jay, at 3 o'clock in the morning, you know what I was doing? My workout. I got it in because I knew I was going to travel for that day. I wasn't going to get my workout in.
That's
so I said,
impressive.
You know what? I'm going to do it at 3 a.m. And there's some friends,
3
some guys.
a.m. workout.
3
Let's
a.m.
go.
baby. Let's do it. It's like the old saying, how you attack your morning is how you attack your life. I'm going to attack it. I'm not going to sit around and listen to myself say I'm not worth it. It's like, I'm not guaranteed tomorrow. I'm not entitled tomorrow. So I'm not saying I have to do everything today, but I could write out a list of things that I can check off and attack it. And that's it. Like just a few things. And so, but it does so much for us.
First thing in the morning.
You know,
It'll
first
help your
thing,
self-worth in addition
will,
to
man.
everything we've had. If you found this episode helpful, feel free to go back, watch it again, take notes. Please subscribe. We're doing this series to help the gaming community, to try to offer some different wisdom on a different long laundry list of topics. The first, say 10 episodes, we're going to be laying some basic foundations, and we're going to get into some more specific topics that are challenging gamers and the gaming culture. Let us know in the comments below what you'd like us to talk about. Let us know if you find this beneficial. Give us your feedback. Make sure you follow us on Twitter there on the screen. And we'll be back with the next episode of the Rewired Gamer. Ronnie, I appreciate you, man. I love the people that are taking the time to watch this. I sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, hope that you're finding this information helpful. And sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much to Ronnie for coming on and doing the show with me for the gaming community, my brother.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me. It's always fun being here. You guys have a great weekend. We'll chat later on.
All right. Take care.
I hope our fans are ready for a wild ride. Juggernaut or not, we're here to kick some ass.
If you say you just can't take any more, all you're really saying is I just don't want to go any higher.
Failure is not the opposite of success. It's only part of it.
And you kept fighting, and you kept fighting, and you kept fighting. That's all I ask from you guys ever.